All right, welcome back, movement specialists, to another episode of Triplane Function, where you take a muscle, make it relevant to you so that you can see it, feel it, work it, and teach it. All right, today we're going to be doing the adductors. And the goal of this video, like a lot of our other videos, is to use visual aid like the TheraBand and overlay where the adductors really are in this case. So you can see how you can get the adductors lengthened in all three planes of motion by manipulating the bottom as well as the top. All right, so what do the adductors do? Well, it's in the name. It adducts the hip, adducts the knee, right? Is that all they do though? By now, you know in triplane function, we know that these muscles do a whole lot more than that. If I were to go up to a kindergartner and say, all right, little Jimmy, what is the most important muscle of your whole entire thigh? And I'd give him a choice. I'd say, okay, you got your quadriceps, and there's 4 muscles in that, Jimmy. Then you got your hamstrings. You got 3 muscles there. And I'd say, and last but not least, in this thigh you got these adductor muscles. Jimmy, guess how many muscles are in your adductors? How many muscles are in those adductors? Do you know? After all, they just adduct the hip, right? Well, does it come as a surprise to you that the adductors are actually comprised of 5, some people even argue up to 7 different muscles? Let's list them. Brevis, magnus, longus, gracilis, pectineus. Those are the 5 that I would consider. Some even say that there's a minimus component, which I think is kind of tied in with the magnus, and also the obturator externus, which I think is more of a deep, deep glute muscle. But still, those are all in this medial compartment. So once again, if I told Jimmy, all right, in the last group, Jimmy is the adductors. They have 5. Out of all those, the hamstrings, quads, and adductors, which one do you think is the most important? More than likely, Jimmy, being a smart kindergartner, he'd say, you know what, Andrew? I bet it's the one that has 5, because that's the one that has the most. And I'd agree with him. How many times when we deal with someone with a thigh injury, we just focus too much on quad or hamstrings? These adductors kind of get just pushed to the side. I feel like they should have never been named the adductors because we just say, oh, it just adducts the hip. They're not important, but they do a whole lot more. So before we talk about what they actually do, let's talk about where they actually attach. So let's use your TheraBand, get it out, tie a knot in it to make a loop. Steve, please wrap that around your right foot. Now, I'm not going to go line by line and tell you exactly where these adductors attach. Generally, they attach to the inside of your femur. Okay, so get that knot, have it be on the inside of this femur. That's the distal attachment. The proximal attachment is going to be to your pubic bone, generally. We got 5 up to 7, not all of them attached to the pubic bone, but for all intents and purposes, drag it up and just keep it right at where you have a belt buckle. And cinch it up pretty nice and tight, so at home you can feel how we're going to get these lengthened. So after you get this attached, you'll recognize that whenever you are in a non-weight-bearing position, open chain, if you lift up that right foot, that TheraBand is going to drag you more inside. It's going to adduct, and that's exactly where Steve is showing that band gets a lot looser, doesn't get taut. So how do we mobilize the adductors? Well, we can move the foot into abduction. So Steve, do me a big favor and take a big step wide. This is a common stretch, common mobilization for these adductors. But there's 5 of them. We've got to talk about a little bit more how we manipulate these variables. Sometimes I like to think about these adductors in 2 different compartments. A front compartment, anterior, and a back compartment, posterior compartment. The anterior compartment would be more your longus and your gracilis, and the posterior a little bit more your brevis and your magnus. So if I said, okay, I want to get this anterior front compartment dialed up a little bit, first thing I'll have him do is take a step forward with that left foot. Perfect. That loads up these anterior structures right here. Okay? So we got the sagittal plane. We already got the frontal plane from the bottom by having him move wide. And then lastly, in the transverse plane, I'd say, okay, Steve, please internally rotate this foot. Okay, good. This is how you'd be getting an adductor, longus, gracilis stretch from the bottom. If you wanted to get the posterior compartment from the bottom up, Steve, go ahead and stand up right again. Okay, do me a favor, let's bring that right foot forward for me. posterior compartment is going to act a little bit like your hamstrings, the medial aspect of your hamstrings. So we got this sagittal plane component. Let's step a little bit wider for me, Steve. Oh, wider. No, not longer. Wider. Let's come out. Perfect. And then last but not least, we're going to externally rotate this right here. That way you can get this medial compartment a little bit more lengthened. Okay. Is that how we stretch it? Is that how you stretch it? Is that how you tell your patients and your clients to stretch it? Hope not, because that's only half of the story. We haven't even manipulated where the pelvis really goes in all of this. So once we have Steve in this stance right here, stretching the posterior aspect of these adductors by stepping wide, long, externally rotating his knee, I can say, okay, pelvis, you're going to help us out a little bit. Let's go ahead and side glide to the left. Let's go ahead and flex forward, get an anterior tilt of that pelvis. And last but not least, let's twist a little bit like this. So for some of your yogis out there, this might look like a triangle pose a little bit. Steve, where do you feel this?
Right in the adductors.
Perfect. Inside of that thigh. Great. Fish around. Move your pelvis a little bit. Figure out where the best stretch is for you. Feel free to manipulate these variables one at a time so you get the most effective mobilization for yourself. Encourage your patients to do this as well. Okay, stand straight up for me. So that's that anterior component. How about that posterior compartment? So Steve, let's go ahead and take a big step forward and wide with your left foot. Good. And let's add that internal rotation once again. Here. So now I've just once again manipulated him from the bottom up. How about from that top down? Now once again, I can have him side glide to the left. I can have him now posteriorly tilt, stand a little more upright, get those hips up. And last but not least, I'm going to be getting a little bit more by having him rotate. Here, getting that wound up. Steve, where do you feel this?
Medial aspect adductor is pretty big.
This is fun. I like stretching Steve because my goal is to get this pain face.
Yeah.
Maybe at home you don't want to do this to your clients or to yourself, but for Steve, he's a good sport. So thanks, Steve. You can stand upright. So I hope through this you learned that the adductors, loading in all three planes of motion, from the bottom as well as from the top, you know that they do a whole lot more than just adduct the hip, and that you can stretch them in a whole lot more effective ways than just through pure wide stance stretches. Thanks for joining us in Triplane Function. We'll see you next time.